give a different picture all about how we are looking at this. Because perspectives matter and it really creates a belief system. Unfortunately, the image of today's Odisha in the general perception is not very inspiring. We have to admit that. It's rather poor, inactive, inefficient, and sleepy. All these traits are quite antithesis of what we call smart. We got to admit it. Then only we can have a real perspective to grow further. Just see, even at home, the old sleepy attitude and a traditional belief system about good governance are being seriously now questioned. Not that people of Odisha do not realize the good side of the present government that people have experienced, but the transformative image in the awareness and aspiration level of people have made good look bad. In a scenario where good is not good enough, that win hearts and minds. Besides, Odisha is still known for its poverty. Just take case of Dana Maji from Bhubaneswar, hit headline just a year back. What about branding of Odisha suddenly collapsed with that? In 70s and 80s, we had heard of starvation deaths. And then, obviously, Odisha was not, in the scene. It was just even not a growing state. So these calls for, I think some panelists raised about the role of media. Like Mr. Sarkar said, that media doesn't show the dead bodies, pictures of the dead bodies in developed countries, whereas in India we do it. So can you say that in Odisha or in India we have irresponsible media? That needs to be also discussed, debated, and analyzed. Odisha is known in many cases for record of underperformances because we have bureaucrats here. So I think they have to think about it. Why I call it underperformance when you compare with the performing states? Well, our growth rate is 7%, little higher than the other states. Should we be happy about that? Probably we need a growth rate of 24, 30%. Then only Odisha can match the growing states in the next maybe 10 years, a decade or so. That makes the perception of Odisha fairly negative in the development and growth parameters. One scale that most people use to measure the achievements of any government nowadays. Let's talk of tourism sector, which today this conclave is there and it is the right context. Only 1% of the foreigners visiting India have come to the state in the last 7 years. And obviously everybody knows about it, analysts know it, government knows, tour operators knows, hoteliers know. The lack of proper branding of Odisha in the international market and communication gap are largely attributed for this poor footfall of the tourists. Everybody discussed about even this tourism secretary, Mr. Ahuja also gave a presentation how Odisha is rich in its tourism products. So many monuments, so many beaches, so many wildlife, festivals, all those things. But what is the contribution of tourism to the state's GDP? That's only 10%. Now let's talk about smart city and smart state. Bhubaneswar has got the smart city status and quite a distinct one. But that is not sufficient to make any sense to normal perception of the new age population in whose lexicon the smart word prevails more than the others. In a young country, if youths are not convinced, then you are left out. Today's youth is more grounded, aware, globally connected, and knows what all it takes to make a transformative vision go real. Knowing the poor record of growth of all other places, perhaps except the smart city, the transformative connect from the city to whole of Odisha looks very distant and not somewhat unreal in the present scenario. This, along with the credibility crisis that the government faces due to a poor underdevelopment record compared to performing states, will rather make a large part of the knowing audiences take it just yet another tall claim that often appeared just before the elections. With 2019 elections coming up, the government comes up with this kind of thing, people will think it's all election bakwas. So there needs to be a better, more credible, reliable, relatable, and acceptable call or claim to easily connect with the audience. And accordingly, the communication mix can be built around playing with the past performance and future vision matching with the present action. 80% of smart city funds in this country is earmarked for just 2.7% of city area. Just imagine. Already developed pockets of the selected cities will be the first to benefit. In the number one mission city of Bhubaneswar, 90% of the rupees 4,537 crore smart city funds are proposed to be spent on the Bhubaneswar town center district, a commercial business district that accounts for less than 3% of the city's area. Just imagine. It is true that we have a developed pockets and an underdeveloped pocket. It is happening, it is still there. There is a gap between rural and urban. And today also we find the villagers rushing to the cities, towns in search of livelihood. So when you talk of smart city, we need to think of smart villages as well. Now, let me not talk about digital marketing, digital technology, because he says the digital tools are very important and the government has to leverage the digital tools to take the tourism forward. I will definitely agree to one point that digital tools have broken the monopoly of media. Enabling everyone to become a publisher, leveraging these digital tools is a real challenge for the government, and how it promotes the state, that depends on the policymakers. Now, time has come where government should focus its energy and resources to develop the rural areas and arrest the pattern of flight of the villages folks to urban areas. Let us recollect Mahatma Gandhi, what he said, if there is upliftment of rural population villages, then only the nation can prosper. It was true then, it is still true now for the country in general and Odisha in particular. What Odisha requires are smart citizens and smarter politicians and bureaucrats for a really smart Odisha. When the entire state will become smart, we will have several smart places, not just one or two. Thank you very much.